The 1964-65 World's Fair is often celebrated as one of the most important cultural highlights of the mid-20th century. The event brought together a more than modest sampling of some of mankind's greatest artwork. Don't believe me? Well, for example, the Spain Pavilion shared masterpieces by Goya, Velázquez, and El Greco.
The pavilion cost the Spanish government more than $7 million and took 9 months to build. The ceiling consists of blocks of Flemish pine carved in Spain and then painstakingly fitted together here.
Attendees could experience modern works by Dalí, Miró, and 3 pieces by the legendary Pablo Picasso.
In the art gallery, there are 3 flamboyant Picassos. This one depicts the artist Gauguin. Spanish officials bought them in France, where Picasso, a native of Spain, has lived for many years.
Over at the Vatican Pavilion, guests could experience Michelangelo's Pietà.
Pizza time! Yeah, give me a slice of anchovies and peanut butter.
Not pizza. I said Pietà. It's an incredible sculpture depicting the body of Christ in the arms of his mother just after he was taken down from the cross. If I'm not mistaken, it's the only work to have ever been signed by the master sculptor. It's been suggested that an average of something like 78,000 people visited the Vatican Pavilion each day, making it the second most popular attraction at the fair. Right across from the Vatican Pavilion was another extremely popular destination.
There's the New York State Pavilion. We're getting closer. There's only so close you can get without actually climbing all the way up there, which of course we're not allowed to do, but that would be cool.
Inside, you might find artwork from the famous Hudson River School of Painting, or portraits of early New York colonists. However, the outside of the pavilion showcased the handiwork of those delinquents of the art world, the curators of commercialism known as pop artists. A crude clan of retrobates led by Robert Rauschenberg, James Rosenquist, Robert Indiana, Roy Lichtenstein, and their most notorious member.
My name is Andy Warhol, and I just finished eating a hamburger.
Or at least Warhol would have been featured at the fair had he not created a piece that was considered so controversial it was immediately taken down before the fair opened in 1964. So, what could have been so offensive that it had to be hidden from fairgoers? You know, I'm going to go ahead and guess it wasn't 13 varieties of Campbell's soup.
Made with milk and country cream and 7 garden vegetables, bursting with flavor and tasty goodness. For a quick but hearty soup and sandwich lunch, serve Campbell's Cream of Vegetable Soup. Try Campbell's Great Cream of Vegetable Soup, an old-fashioned tomato rice soup.
When your car needs gasoline, it knows how to ask for it. But when your car needs service, it can't ask until it's sometimes too late. That's why this man has made a pledge to give your car big friend service. He's the biggest friend your car's ever had.
You can trust your car to the man who wears the star, the big bright Texaco star.
The New York World's Fair in 1964 was an incredible opportunity for members of the petroleum industry to show off their brand. In fact, the Mobil Oil Company created a free experience for guests interested in testing their driving skills on a simulated cross-country adventure. But that wasn't nearly as exciting as what Sinclair Oil offered fairgoers over in Dinoland. Prehistoric giants roamed the earth once more in Flushing Meadows. Not for nothing, but as cool as those fiberglass dinosaur replicas were, I'm still all about those Mold-O-Rama dinosaur figures. If this were smell-o-vision, we'd all be enjoying that sweet, sweet aroma of injected, molded plastic.
I'm gonna walk on over here just to see these beautiful beautiful Mold-O-Matics. Love these things. I'm checking out today. We have a authentic Disneyland one. This is a real deal. This one is an actual real deal Disneyland one. And this is over here is a replica of the Sinclair Auto dinosaur machine, which was so popular during the 1964-65 World's Fair. So two very, very cool machines that I'm super stoked to be able to just kind of hang out by.
Okay, let's not get too distracted because it's time to leave the transportation area and head over to the states and federal area because the Texaco Oil Company has done something truly spectacular over at the New York Pavilion just below the Tent of Tomorrow.
The building proper is covered by a translucent oval roof. It consists of innumerable sections of brightly colored plastic through which daylight floods the arena. What Philip Johnson has done is to take the European concept of the high-roofed arcade, like the one in Milan, and restate it in modern American terms. The effect is refreshing. It's pleasant to contemplate such a structure in the middle of New York or Chicago.
Now, once you're done staring at those beautiful translucent colored fiberglass panels, take a moment to fully appreciate the absolutely gigantic terrazzo map of the state of New York. Texaco was responsible for this mid-century masterpiece illustrating every road, community, river, and lake. In a way, it was kind of the world's largest triptych, for those of you who remember those. It took almost a full year to design, construct, and install this massive mezzanine, which, to put it into perspective, it's still less time than it takes me to fold a normal size map. Another impressive part of this pavilion were the 3 observation towers, which, contrary to what Hollywood will tell you, are still standing today.
You see behind me the towers, and then moving over to the side here, check this out. So a lot of this pavilion would have been sponsored by Texaco, and Marcy noticed all the way on the other side there's a Texaco logo. You can just barely see it. Wish I could get closer. But that whole mezzanine floor, the map that would have been on the floor, that was sponsored by Texaco. You can actually see, I think some of the flooring's still actually in there. But man, you got grass, you got weeds, you got plants growing out of it. Wouldn't have been there originally. But just the fact that this was built so well that so much of it's still here. You can see the canopy's gone. That stuff did not stick around. But it's pretty amazing what's still here.
The observation towers offered an incredible view of the fairgrounds. They were 60, 150, and 226 feet respectively. In fact, the tallest tower was actually the highest point at the New York World's Fair. All 3 observation decks were accessible by elevators called sky streaks. Those were clear plastic capsules soaring up and down the outside of the tower. On your way up, you might notice the New York Pavilion's circular panoramic theater showing a 14-minute film called Around New York. The Walt Disney Company had already developed this style of 360-degree film for America the Beautiful, which premiered at the Brussels World Fair in 1958 and was then reproduced over at Disneyland in 1960. It wasn't the newest technology by 1964, but it still was very impressive, and the theater welcomed 100 guests at a time, standing room only. Around New York was shot in Theaterama, which, from what I understand, is more impressive than Disney's Circle-Rama, and undoubtedly had an entirely different experience than General Motors' Futurama, and absolutely had nothing to do with Sinclair's Mold-O-Rama. And again, I'm sorry, there's no smell-o-vision. We are working on that.
So just around this building right here, this circular building, not only because you have seen Circle Vision on the inside, but just around this building right here, you would have seen some amazing artwork by some of the most popular contemporary artists.
Outside the theater proper, attendees could experience work from the bad boys of the art industry. For some, pop art was seen as almost derogatory and had no place in a museum and certainly should not be showcased prominently in public view. I find that so odd because men like Roy Lichtenstein helped jumpstart the movement in the 1960s with amusing pieces like Look Mickey. Lichtenstein became infamous for hijacking techniques closely associated with comics, like word bubbles or Ben-Day dots. His contribution to the New York State Pavilion featured a laughing redhead done in his signature style. Pop artist James Rosenquist created a mural that included overlapping sections from billboard advertisements. It was a commentary on a few affluent aspects of mid-century America, like patriotism, consumerism, and innovation. Now, one of my favorite pop artworks at the Pavilion was Eat by Robert Indiana. The giant sign featured 400 blinking lights, and as legend has it, when it was lit, hordes of hungry guests would be attracted to the New York Pavilion like moths to a flame. I guess it's fortunate that the Pavilion would have offered a 700-seat restaurant operated by Schrafft's, which, from what I'm told, would have been a pretty well-known franchise at the time. Plus, they were experimenting with something new for the fair. Automatic vending machines featuring inexpensive food items like spaghetti, club sandwiches, and even their world-famous selection of ice cream. So famous that the legendary Andy Warhol would collaborate with the restaurant in the 1960s to help promote their new Underground Sundae. Warhol filmed a minute-long commercial to help promote the newest dessert. The people at Schrafft's were quite happy with the results. The same cannot be said about the mural Warhol created for the New York State Pavilion. Okay, so Andy Warhol. Most of you probably know him as the pop artist with the fascination for celebrities like Marilyn Monroe and the intense infatuation for America's #1 institution for canned soup, Campbell's. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Warhol loved soup. He once said in an interview that he'd have soup for lunch almost every single day. It's also been said that his sumptuous sentiment for soup started as a child when his mother warmed him up a bowl. The nostalgia may have blossomed into a deep admiration for the brand. But I digress. I bet you're wondering, how did Andy Warhol, the gentleman who elevated the stature of a soup can, how did he get kicked out of the New York World's Fair? Well, I'll tell you. By April 15th, 1964, all of the murals around the Panoramic Theater at the New York Pavilion had been installed. You got your laughing redhead over here, you got your Rauschenberg Skyway, you got your blinking sign that says Eat, and then, okay, are you ready for this? You have the 13 Most Wanted Men by Andy Warhol. Yes, 13 mugshots of New York's most wanted criminals hanging at the Pavilion meant to celebrate the Empire State.
Doesn't come out.
It wouldn't take long for news to spread. Officials decided it might be best not to include the mural as it might upset families with young children and possibly the local Italian community, since 7 of the 13 men were also of Italian descent. In fact, the New York governor, Nelson Rockefeller, took it one step further. He had the mural completely covered in silver paint. But the story doesn't end there. Warhol offered an idea for a replacement, a mural featuring multiple images of New York World's Fair president, urban planner, power broker, and an all-around polarizing figure, Robert Moses. Now, I'm confident that you all are intelligent people, so it probably won't surprise you to hear that they rejected Warhol's idea for his replacement work and felt it might not be appropriate to replace 13 views of New York's most wanted men with 13 views of Robert Moses. I don't know, though. I think it's kind of funny. I think it's fair to say Warhol did go on to live an exciting and interesting life. And while the New York World's Fair definitely represents a significant cultural milestone, I think it's fair to say that Andy Warhol had a much larger impact on popular culture than the 1964 World's Fair. Now that's just my opinion, so let's turn it over to you so that you can offer up some commentary. How do you feel about the pop art movement, and which one of these murals that we discussed, which one was your favorite? Oh, and do you think it was fair that Andy Warhol's work was not left up on display on the New York Pavilion? Give us your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you so much for checking out this video celebrating the people of the World's Fair. If you'd like to learn more about this incredible event, make sure you subscribe to Retro Spectrum, then check out some of these other amazing videos. Also, a huge shout out to all my YouTube friends who have helped me out with making these videos. I'll leave all their information in the description of this video.